Villains.
I know you can barely see it because I'm
Want to
Kid.
play with Daddy tomorrow?
With your spiritual pressure,
I become bored of a world my own.
talking about.
Deserves a better classical. Rather slippery of you, Agent Stone.
We often talk about the importance of main characters, the plot, the world building, and how vital they are as the building blocks of any story. But it is the villains which more often than not end up making a show memorable. And similarly, some of the greatest stories have also provided us with iconic villains that have been entrenched into our memories. And over the years, anime has given us some of the most iconic and memorable villains. And we have seen quite the variety when it comes to those villains in how they are written and how they impact the story as a whole. And I thought I would show some love to the incredible villains of various kinds we see in anime by talking about 3 of my favorite anime villains of all time. So today, that is exactly what we are gonna do. A show that doesn't get brought up as much when talking about great villains is Psycho Pass Season 1. Season 1 of Psycho Pass is one of my favorite first seasons in anime, and a big reason for that is, well, you guessed it, the villain. The charm of any fantasy or sci-fi show is the unique world they introduce us to. Unique ideas, discoveries, and new inventions that bring about a change in how society functions in those worlds. But a great sci-fi show is able to explore both the good and harmful sides of those nuances of its world. And Psycho Pass accomplishes exactly that through its main antagonist,
A
Makishima.
world where common things are done in common ways. I suppose you could say that I'm a man of the people.
Makishima is a character that challenges the status quo of that world, the civil system, something that everyone has become so used to, something that the law enforcing agents have become dependent on. And Makishima challenges something so fundamental to that world and tears apart the facade it led people to believe in, all while creating violence and chaos by taking advantage of the flaws of that system, manipulating other criminals, enabling them to bypass the system, and showing the society the horrors of blindly allowing machines and artificial intelligence to control the security of their lives. He provides some of the most bone-chilling scenes, like when he renders a law enforcing agent fully armed, yet completely powerless while he murders their loved ones in front of them.
Regret helplessness, Akane, and feel true despair.
Crime coefficient 0. No enforcement action required. Trigger will remain locked. Yuki,
All because of the flaw within the system they wholeheartedly trusted. He feeds on people's mental inability to break the law that they have become so accustomed to, and it provides the base for an amazing dynamic between one of the main characters and the villain in the show. Anybody who is fascinated by what would happen if AI slowly takes over important aspects of our lives should definitely give this show a shot. And by the end, I can assure you that you will be all the way confused whether you want Akirishima to break the system down and bring about chaos, or if you would have been happier being ignorant and oblivious. But at the very least, you will experience one of the most interesting antagonists in anime. You know, there are some people who are just the best at a certain thing and they put effort on top of that to get that much better and consistent at it. That is Naoki Urasawa when it comes to writing some of the most perfect villains. So it should come as no surprise that he is the one that created the greatest anime antagonist of all time. Monster is, simply put, one of the greatest psychological thrillers I've ever seen, period. And not just in anime. And you know, I can praise the writing of all the characters in this show, but if you want to witness a show that can make a character terrifying without even showing them on screen for almost a quarter of the show, then this is the show you need to watch. A villain who can move anyone with his words. And no, it's not a fantasy where mind control is his ability or anything. It's just how his words are able to stir the deepest fears and regrets of people, forcing them into acting in ways that they wouldn't normally. Johan Lievert proves that the most dangerous weapon is words. Words can control people, push people towards acts they'll regret, brings out the weakness in people, and can lead them towards their doom. A charming yet cold-blooded killer with the ability to move people's hearts. And it makes the story that much interesting as it revolves around Johan. The quest to stop him, the quest of uncovering his identity and his past and understanding his true intentions. Johan's motivation, philosophy, and the idea of perfect suicide really provides some of the most interesting ideas you will get in any psychological story out there. A villain that realized the power of fear and its impact over human heart and has mastered it. And also I want to mention that this show has one of the greatest villain reveals I've ever seen in any medium.
You can't just go around killing!
Why not?
When life is precious, don't you see that? Rescuing you opened my eyes. I was able to go back!
and it perfectly sets up the tone for how this character will impact the story and become an iconic villain in the world of anime. I've already talked about Psycho Pass having one of my favorite season 1s in anime, but if I had to choose my favorite season 1 ever, I'd probably choose Vinland Saga without a second thought. Creating terrifying and hateable villains is one thing, but very few shows were able to create an antagonist that people wholeheartedly hated but eventually understood, fell in love with, started caring about, and even rooted for at the very end. And Ashelot might just be the best of the lot. Vinland Saga gave us a character that we hated with all our soul, who did vile acts, committed unspeakable crimes to get his way, made many people's, including the MC's, life miserable, and pretty much did everything a villain does that makes them so hateable. But somehow this character grows on you as the season progresses, even when he continues with such heinous acts. You get to see the charismatic leader fighting for something he believes in, something he wants to protect, using everything he can to get what he wants, no matter how vile the method is. But beneath all that, the inner struggles, desires and dreams of this character are revealed to you, and what he is trying to protect, what he truly believes in, is also revealed. And not through just a backstory, even though we do get an amazing backstory about him, but these are revealed to you via various small actions and decisions he makes, through the various risks he takes and the people he himself is willing to follow and protect, the sacrifices he is willing to make. A truly wise individual who has learned the harshest realities of life through the bitterest of experiences and continues to live accepting that harsh reality and a firm grasp on human nature, follows the rotten laws of that life and hates himself for it, but tries changing those laws as the last act and sacrifices himself for something more, for a chance of change and for protecting what he cares about the most. And it is then that you realize that this entire time we were just seeing the prologue, and the villain introduced at the very beginning is actually the main character of this prologue, and a character we all ended up falling in love with.
See that? What a sorry sight. A man who brandishes a whip and owns a slave, meanwhile worshipping the money that bought him that slave. He doesn't realize it himself. But every human being is a slave to something.
All these great villains have one thing in common. They have a certain level of gravitas that they hold on for the entirety of their time in the show. But they don't do that through violence or physical superiority. I mean, it is easy to make a villain be outright violent or just physically imposing or have shitload of wealth and a large number of men working under them and use that to say, hey look, he is scary, right? But this often doesn't create long-lasting impact, feels shallow and cheap. Some of the greatest villains felt threatening even without these elements. Even beyond anime, look at villains like Hannibal and Joker. All great villains are terrifying because they can outwit the system, can use people, can move people's hearts, and can use chaos and terrify you without just straight up being big and violent. And they all play an important role in making the plot more intriguing and the story more memorable. And I'm glad that the medium of anime has given us some of the most well-written villains out there. Thanks for watching the video. Tell me about your favorite villain of all time in the comments, and see you all in the next video.